Welcome everyone to this special explainer. I want you to picture this for a second. The clock strikes exactly 2:13 a.m. Outside, the rain is just pouring down in absolute sheets. It's literally the perfect suspenseful setting for a story that totally blurs the line between modern folklore and the paranormal. Today, we're exploring these seriously chilling accounts surrounding a legendary vintage doll. Now, you've likely heard the name whispered before, but we're going to systematically break down the exact sequence of events that took this from just a simple, everyday object to a world-famous paranormal artifact. Let's get started. Okay, let's dive into this. Take a look at this exact, chilling warning label. This is currently pasted right on the locked glass case holding the real-life doll today. Warning. Positively do not open. It's an incredibly striking visual, isn't it? I mean, it immediately begs the question, what could a seemingly inanimate object possibly do to warrant such a severe, permanent warning? To understand how we actually got to this heavily guarded glass case, we have to trace back through the timeline of claims and reports that built this entire legend. And that brings us to our first major phase, Section 1, A Simple Beginning, The Origin of the Terror. As with so many complex paranormal accounts, the starting point is, well, completely mundane. Back in 1970, a young woman named Donna, who was working as a nurse in Connecticut, received a vintage doll. It was just a simple birthday gift from her mom. Now, it's absolutely crucial to note here that initially, everything was perfectly normal. There wasn't any immediate haunting, no strange noises bumping in the night. The doll literally just sat quietly in the corner of Donna's room in an apartment she shared with her roommate, Angie. It was just a piece of nostalgia, a decorative item taking up space. But as the initial reports detail, this baseline of normalcy definitely didn't last very long. Let's move to and see how this builds in our next phase. Section 2, Terrifying Signs, the Escalation. The shift from a static object to an active presence didn't just happen overnight. It was a really slow, methodical buildup. It started out super subtly. A few days later, the girls would return from a long shift at the hospital, and the doll, which had just been sitting in a corner, seemed a little off. Fast forward a few weeks, and the claims escalate significantly. The doll was reportedly found in completely different rooms, like they'd leave it on a bed and find it sitting out on the sofa. Then, it evolved from just changing locations to altering its actual body positions. They reported finding the doll with its legs crossed or its arms folded, almost as if it were gesturing right at them. And then, we hit the real climax of this escalation phase. Donna allegedly found a red, blood-like substance physically present on the doll's hands. This wasn't just some misplaced object anymore. According to the legend, a physical, highly threatening manifestation had just occurred. That dramatic escalation leads us directly into our next chapter. Section 3, The Bloody Attack, Lou's Nightmare. Up until now, the roommates were mostly dealing with environmental anomalies. But their friend Lou, he constantly claimed this doll harbored something much, much darker. Lou's terrifying encounter is broken down into a very specific sequence. He claimed he woke up screaming in the dead of night, completely paralyzed. Then, he reported feeling this massive, heavy weight pressing down directly on his chest, severely restricting his breathing. Upon opening his eyes in the dark, he claimed to see the doll itself right there with him. And the piece of evidence that changed the game for the whole group, when the episode finally ended, Lou reportedly found deep, physical claw marks raked right across his body. Now, we're impartially reporting the claims here, but you can see how this structured progression, from a doll just moving across a room to a reported physical assault, completely shattered the roommates' perception of what they were actually dealing with. This level of sheer terror prompted a massive shift in the story. Section 4, The Warrens' Entry, The Paranormal Investigation. Donna and her friends quickly realized they were way out of their depth and needed professional intervention. And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point of the entire legend. You see, before the famous investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived, a local medium had theorized that the doll held the tragic spirit of a little girl named Annabelle who had died near the property. It was framed as the sad story of a lost child seeking comfort. But the second the Warrens arrived, they completely rejected this. They definitively stated there was no child spirit at all. Instead, they diagnosed the presence as a highly dangerous, demonic entity that was merely using the doll as a temporary vessel, with the ultimate goal of possessing a human host. This completely reframes everything we just reviewed, taking it from a sad haunting to a calculated, predatory attack. The Warrens ultimately concluded that the artifact was just way too dangerous to remain in the apartment, so they decided to transport it back to their own occult museum for safekeeping. But, according to their own accounts, even the journey itself was fraught with extreme danger. The Warrens claims their car suddenly stalled out multiple times right on the highway, and even more frighteningly, they reported that their brakes mysteriously failed during the drive, causing the couple to narrowly avoid several severe, potentially fatal accidents. It's as if the historical accounts are suggesting the entity was actively, physically fighting the relocation the entire way. All of this intense, documented history brings our explainer full circle today. Section 5, the final warning, the present day. So, the crucial point is this. The legend absolutely didn't just end back in 1970. Today, persistent local claims and ongoing reports state that anyone who visits the museum and dares to mock or challenge the trapped entity will allegedly suffer terrible, absolute misfortune. That intense warning label we saw at the beginning isn't just about physically opening the door. It's about respecting the perceived boundary between our world and whatever force might be attached to that object. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. We've walked through the timeline step by step together, from a mundane birthday gift to moving independently, to a reported physical attack, and finally a permanent lockdown under strict warning. We've seen how the narrative dramatically shifted from a lost little girl to a dangerous demonic force. Whether you view this whole thing as a fascinating study in escalating folklore, a really interesting psychological phenomenon, or a genuinely terrifying paranormal event, the story is undeniably captivating. So I leave it to you to ponder. Knowing the entire history and the heavy weight of these claims, would you dare mock this doll? Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the boundaries of the unknown.